Marc-Andre Fleury. Welcome to From Center Ice. My name is Courtney, and we had a super exciting Blackhawks game on Thursday. So I'll briefly run through the 3 questions I had for that game to talk about how it went, and then we will jump right into what actually mattered about that game. Question number 1. Can the Blackhawks play with some urgency? So as I said in the last video, the lack of urgency in the Blackhawks game is what really hurt them against the New York teams. So I was hoping coming into this game in Montreal, a big one for their goaltender, that they would be able to have some urgency in their game, come flying right out of the gate maybe, and no, they did not. You could tell watching that game that it was a game between 2 teams that have not been playing very well this season, and neither team really seemed too interested in getting things going. I saw a lot of opinions on Twitter that the Blackhawks were the better team in that game, and I guess you could say so when you look at the outcome of the game, but there were many times throughout that game on Thursday night where it was just an absolute snooze fest. If we go just by shots on goal, in the first period they were 13-12 in favor of the Blackhawks, and going off of that shot total, you would think that the first period wouldn't have been super boring, but I don't know that any of those shots between the 2 teams were super great chances. Of course, the goaltenders still had to make the saves, and both goalies, Marc-Andre Fleury and Jake Allen, did look very good that night. But it was a very lazy game from the skaters in front of them. In the second period, the shots were 8-6 in favor of the Blackhawks, so still outshooting the Habs, but again, not many shots on goal in that period. And in the third period, you can tell the Blackhawks just sat back because the shots were 12-4 in favor of the Montreal Canadiens. Fleury had a bit more work to do in that period, and he did have to come up with some big saves in the third, and he did that. Question number 2. Can the Blackhawks score on the power play? They did score on the power play. They opened the scoring in the game in the second period on the power play. And what people were most excited about with that goal is it was Jonathan Toews' first goal of the season. It was actually his first goal since Corey Crawford's last game in net for the Chicago Blackhawks. When I saw Mark Lazarus kindly point out on Twitter that that was Toews' first goal since the bubble, I had to go back and look and see which games he scored in. He scored in that final game against the Vegas Golden Knights, and of course that was Corey Crawford's last game in net. And not just for the Blackhawks, but just, you know, for his career. So that made me sad. Very sad. I missed my goalie so much. And of course it was in Montreal, the team he always dominated because he's from Quebec. But anyway, Toews' first goal of the season was assisted by Seth Jones and Patrick Kane. It was a wonderful setup from Seth Jones. The goal was basically all him. It was a nifty pass to Toews, who just had to redirect the puck into the net, and the Blackhawks were up 1-0. There weren't many goals scored in that game, so that goal was a big one. There was only one other goal scored, and that came in the third period, 12 minutes into the third period. And that was scored by brand new first line center Henrik Borgstrom, who was centering the first line between Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane. Just like we all assumed he would be, really. It was his second goal of the season, it was unassisted, and now he's out of the game tonight because he is sick, but not COVID related. So I hope he had fun in one game being the first line center. Question number 3. Can the Blackhawks stay out of the box? Their penalty kill was also something that hurt them greatly, especially against the Rangers with Artemi Panarin. And Thursday night in Montreal, they only took 1 penalty, and they killed it off. I will take that for sure. So there were only 2 goals scored in the game. Both of them came from the Chicago Blackhawks, Jonathan Toews and Henrik Borgstrom. That means that the hometown kid, Marc-Andre Fleury, got a shutout in Montreal. And not only was it a very nice 69th shutout of his career, but it was his 500th NHL win. He is only the 3rd netminder to do that in NHL history, and he's joined by very good company. Patrick Waugh and Martin Brodeur. I'd say those guys were pretty good. It was an incredible moment for Fleury. It would have been really cool if he could have got win number 500 and game number 900 against the New York Rangers in Chicago, but I think this might have worked out how it was supposed to, because he got his 500th win with a shutout in front of his family in Montreal where he grew up. You cannot ask for better than that. And big props to the Montreal home crowd, because as the time was winding down on the clock, the entire Bell Center was chanting Fleury's name. It was a very emotional moment, I'm sure, especially for Fleury himself, but also for fans of the Blackhawks, just of Marc-Andre Fleury, who doesn't love the guy. So thank you, Montreal fans, for giving him that moment. It was very cool. And not only is he only the third netminder in NHL history to reach 500 wins, but he is the fastest to do so, doing it in 901 games. Brodeur did it in 908, and Patrick Roy did it in 933. So also, thank you to the Blackhawks for finally getting this guy some wins this season. It took you a while, but you finally did it, and you helped him hit that milestone and become the fastest to do so. So let's just take a look at Fleury's career. How did we get to this point? In the 2003 NHL entry draft, he was chosen first overall by the Pittsburgh Penguins. And because I am who I am, Corey Crawford was also taken in the 2003 entry draft in the second round by the Chicago Blackhawks. Fleury made his NHL debut the very next season on October 10th, 2003. That was a game versus the LA Kings. He made 46 saves, but the Penguins lost 3-0. Thankfully, he didn't have to wait very long to get his first NHL win. That came on October 18th, 2003 in a game against the Detroit Red Wings, who he also won his first Stanley Cup against. He made 31 saves in that game, and the Penguins won the game by a score of 4-3. And something I thought was pretty fun, on October 30th, 2003, Marc-Andre Fleury recorded his first NHL shutout. He made 20 saves. The Penguins won by a score of 1-0, and it was against the Chicago Blackhawks. So his first NHL shutout comes against the Blackhawks. Just a few years later, in his 500th NHL win, he is playing for the Chicago Blackhawks and records a shutout in that game. I thought that was pretty cool. After being drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins, he spent 13 seasons with the club and made 11 playoff appearances. In the regular season, he played 692 games for Pittsburgh. He had a 2.58 goals against average and a .912 save percentage. He had a record of 375 wins, 216 losses, and 68 overtime losses. And in the process of all of that, he recorded 44 shutouts. In the playoffs for the Pittsburgh Penguins, Marc-Andre Fleury played 115 games. He had a record of 62-51. He had a 2.65 goals against average and a .908 save percentage. He recorded 10 playoff shutouts in that time, and most importantly, he is a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. And also in his time with the Pittsburgh Penguins, he went to the Olympics in 2010 and won the gold medal with Team Canada. In comes expansion franchise, the Vegas Golden Knights, and Marc-Andre Fleury became the face of the franchise immediately. He spent 4 seasons in Vegas, making 4 playoff runs. In the regular season, he played 192 games. He had a 2.41 goals against average and a .917 save percentage. He had a record of 117 wins, 60 losses, and 14 overtime losses. And he recorded 23 shutouts with the Vegas Golden Knights. In the playoffs, he played 47 games for Vegas. He had a record of 28-19. He posted a 2.25 goals against average and a .920 save percentage. Oh, and recorded 6 shutouts. You could say that Marc-Andre Fleury was pretty good for the Vegas Golden Knights, and he took them to the Stanley Cup final in their first season. And in his final year with Vegas, the 2020-2021 season, he won the Vezina Trophy as the best goaltender in the National Hockey League. Then we come to this past offseason, and the Blackhawks acquire Marc-Andre Fleury for Mikael Hakkarainen, who Vegas goes on to buy out of his contract. So basically, the Blackhawks end up with Fleury for absolutely nothing, other than taking on his $7 million cap hit for 1 season. You do that absolutely every day of the week. Not only is Marc-Andre Fleury an amazing goaltender, but he is an even more amazing person and teammate. So far, his tenure with Chicago has been very up and down. The season did not start very well for the Blackhawks or for Fleury. He's played 18 games. He has a record of 8-10-0. He's got a 2.79 goals against average and a 913 save percentage and 2 shutouts. And that just goes to show how well he has been playing as of late, because at the beginning of the year, those numbers were a lot lower, but he has put in the work and he has brought them up to an acceptable and respectable range. And of course, one of those 2 shutouts came in win number 500. Fleury has had quite the career. Thankfully, he's not done yet. Of course, we don't know what he's going to do after this season, but we as Blackhawks fans are very lucky to have him on our team for now. And it's pretty cool to see him hit milestones in the Hawks sweater. So congratulations to Marc-Andre Fleury, one of the most loved guys throughout the entire NHL. He is absolutely going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he deserves all of the respect that he gets. But the Blackhawks do have a game tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Fleury gets the night off. Kevin Lankinen's going to be in net. So let's jump into the 3 questions I have for tonight's matchup in Toronto. Question 1. Will the Blackhawks get pucks to the net? This has been a curse of this team for as long as I can remember. They're always looking for the pretty plays, passing it way too much when they should be shooting the puck. But Peter Mrazek is supposedly in net for Toronto tonight, and he has not played since the end of October with an injury, so it would be very good for the Blackhawks to get as many pucks to the net as possible and challenge this guy right out of the gate. Of course, by doing so, they could just build up his confidence and he could shut out the Blackhawks and make all sorts of crazy saves in his first game back and be a wonderful story, which it wouldn't surprise me if that happened, but this is also the Toronto Maple Leafs we're talking about, and usually things like that happen against them. Question 2. Can the Blackhawks stay out of the box? This question is making an appearance for another game, and they did pretty well against the Montreal Canadiens, but that was a very not good team. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a much better team than the Habs. They are a lot faster and they have a lot more skilled players, so it's easier to take penalties against them, even though they don't always get all of the calls that they should, which is very much a topic of frustration in Leafs Nation. But if the Hawks do put the Leafs on the power play, they have to deal with Austin Matthews, Morgan Riley, and William Nylander. And who knows who else, because the Leafs have a bunch of injuries right now. Mitch Marner's out, Jason Spezza, I believe, is still suspended. So just stay out of the box and don't tempt it. Question 3. Will the skaters help out Kevin Lankinen? We saw it in the 3rd period against Montreal when the Blackhawks kind of sat back, and yes, they did allow a lot of shots to get to Fleury, but they did also help shut it down and secure that shutout for him. So far, when Lankinen's been in net during games, they don't help him out at all. He is often left out to dry, and that's why he doesn't have super awesome numbers on the year so far. Of course, he also does have to help himself out and make the saves that he needs to make, but if the skaters in front of him can keep the Leafs to the outside and cut down on the scoring chances and just help Kevin out, maybe, just maybe, Kevin can get a nice win, build up some confidence, and have a great rest of the season. So those are my 3 questions for tonight's matchup against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Do you have any questions about this game? Any questions for the team as a whole? I would love to read them. Leave them down in the comments. And if you would like to hear more from me or from Center Ice, you can head on over to FromCenterIce.com. You can find links to all of the places where you can find us over there. But if you are more of a social media person, you can find links to all of those platforms down in the description. Also, if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, go ahead and do that. And give this video a like, because that would make me very happy. All of that being said, thank you guys so very much for tuning in, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye guys.